You can tell an ecosystem is really maturing when suddenly all kinds of really cool tools start popping up around it. Today I found a new one called Starwind UI that I want to show you. It's a UI framework very similar to shadcn UI, but for Astro, using just Astro components and vanilla JavaScript. We're going to go over everything from installation to looking at multiple different components, how you can actually capture JavaScript events and do something with them, and then update and delete components that you get with Starwind UI. You ready? Let's go. Let's get started with Starwind UI. We're using a very basic Astro project. In fact, it just says Astro. It's the minimal starter, so nothing else has happened. Let's click Get Started, and I'll scroll all the way down here, skip past all the reasons, and go straight to the installation. Now, I already have installed this. I just used the minimal theme instead of the default one from the CLI, but we do need to go ahead and update our TS config, and that's because this uses aliases, type aliases. If you're not sure what those are, basically you can use the @ sign instead of having to relatively reference it from your files. So now that we've got that, there's another little tip here for PNPM, but I want to go ahead and initialize Starwind. I happen to be using npm, so we'll stop the dev server and just go ahead and init that. Now, this actually uses the same CLI builder as Astro itself. It was created by one of Astro's co-creators, Nate Moore, and they're using it here in the Starwind project as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to the components directory. I don't even have anything there. Starwind as well. I'll use the neutral, that's fine, and then I am using npm. I'll go ahead and install all of this. And just a quick note that if you don't have Tailwind installed, you can see that it's going to install it here for us, along with a couple of plugins as well. And now with Tailwind 4.0, you don't have to do anything else besides reference that Starwind CSS file in your layout. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's npm run dev, and we should have gotten it installed. Over here, you won't see any changes yet because now I need to reference the file that's been created right here. I only have one page right now, so I'm just going to import this up top, and we'll do import, and I can use the @ syntax since we already have that, and I'll come in here to Starwind. And now notice it looks like Tailwind because it's using Tailwind. Now let's start with a very basic component. It's actually the one they're going to recommend here, and that is for the button. And just like that, it's installed. That's all we have to do. I'll get this back up and running, jump over this way, and now what we're going to do is just include the button component right here. Now you should see it pull in there from components Starwind button like that. We just need to give it some kind of text, so I could say click me, and it should show up right there, and it's using the default styling. Now the nice thing is since I'm using TypeScript, I can come in here and do variant and get all my different options I have. So error, for instance, should look red, secondary should look purple or whatever. And if you don't like the way that these are done, you can customize them however you want. These are giving you different variants, different sizes, and then here are the different styles here. And just like with shadcn UI, you can customize this because it's your button component, right? It's downloaded that and placed it inside of your project. Now, the cool thing about this button component is it acts as both a button and also as an anchor link. So if it includes an href, it will treat it as a link and actually drop that link tag in. Otherwise, it will use the button tag as the default. And notice here, they've even got these two different HTML attributes set so that you can pass through whatever you need to. So for instance, I could come over here and now just pass in href, and let's just have it go to the home page. And if I were to come and inspect this right like this, you'll notice now this is an anchor link. And if I remove this, we'll go back to a button tag. You can see that right here. Now, by owning this button component, again, you can customize this however you want. You don't only own the component, though, you also own all the theming. The theming is done here just with basic CSS variables. Again, we're using Tailwind 4.0 here, so you can just update any of these variables and it will update your style across all of these components. They actually have a little bit more about theming here if you want to check it out. Right here, they talk through the way that they apply the theme and talk about how you can update each of the variables if you want to. You can even add new colors, and it shows you how you might do that with a specialty class. It also uses themes to handle dark mode or light mode, and you can add your own theme variables if you want to. Now, I want to show you a couple of other components, and if you go to the docs, you can see just a long list of components. So we're going to look at the avatar, the tabs, and the tooltip. Let's start with the avatar, and I'm just going to copy this right here. And why don't we just do all these at the same time? Tabs and tooltip. Super fast to get this up and running, and now I can just use this wherever I want. So let's go ahead and grab this avatar component. I'm going to drop it in the index file right here, and then let's just use it as it has it in the docs. So I'll come over here, drop it in, and notice it will try to load, but if it can't find it, it'll have that fallback image that's positioned absolute in that same circle. Now, that's not very interactive, but it is kind of cool how they've thought through kind of the UX and UI of that as well. We've got these tabs that are interactive. If I jump over here, we can go ahead and grab this right here. I'll just import this and drop the tabs directly in this index file. Now, they've also thought through how to implement this with vanilla JavaScript. So you have Next.js and Astro. All this is being handled by Starwind UI. And you may not know this, but you actually want to be able to use the arrow keys, and that's what I'm doing here. You also want to be able to use home and end. They've thought through all the accessibility here as well. And once again, we own all these components. So if you want to know how these work, you can jump straight into the tabs here. And not only do you see the actual HTML, but you see how they've scaffolded out the vanilla HTML to interact with this. And again, you get all this for free. It just drops it in here and you can customize it however you want. Here's the ARIA controls, the labeled by. They're even thinking about tab indexes. There's a lot of things like this that you don't think about unless you happen to be writing one from scratch like they are here. Now, a lot of these components actually emit custom events. And we can interact with these, which we'll do a little bit later. For now, I just want to show you one other thing, and that was the tooltip. So let's come over here and we'll look at the tooltip. Once again, I'm just going to copy the code. We've already done everything else. I've got the button already, so I don't have to redo that. But I'll drop this in up here and then simply use this tooltip. Now there's the default tooltip. That's what I'm showing you right here. And if I hover, you should see it come up top, but obviously it's at the top of my screen. So I may actually want to position it at the bottom. And I can do that by just changing one little thing. Notice here on the content, I just have to add side equals bottom. So right here, this is the actual content of the tooltip. Come over here and now it'll show at the bottom. Okay, I want to show you two other components, and these actually give us a chance to interact with custom JavaScript. So the first one here is a card. And here they put together a form component, but they're using a card wrapper around all this. So this would be like for submitting a form. So with that installed, I'm going to come back over here, and we've already got a lot of these things. I don't yet have an input or a label or some of these other things. So we might have to install some of this as we go, but I'm going to grab all this right here, and let's just replace everything we've got so far. So I'll replace all that, get rid of this button, and then we're going to get rid of a lot of this stuff down this way. Inside the body then, I just want to put all of this. Now notice it can't find the select, the input, or the label. The nice thing is I can just quickly add those. So input, label, Warp already knows, label, and select. So those are now installed as well, which means I'm back up and running. Now if I come over this way, you'll notice I've now got a form. I can fill this out. I've even got this nice drop down. I'm using the arrow keys to jump around this, and then I can deploy this, which is just submitting the form. When I submit the form though, notice it just goes to the home page, and that's because it's just a form element by default. So if I come over this way, you'll notice that they actually give you a script tag. So now I can grab my script. And in fact, let's grab all of this because I think they've also changed some stuff in this lower one since they're showing you how to use JavaScript. And I'm going to drop all this in right here. And now if I come back over here, I can just say like Chris, select a framework like Astro and hit deploy. And look at this, it submits the form and it console logs it just as we expect. So this is one way to interact with elements, and this is just standard JavaScript. Sometimes though, you want to catch an emitted event by the actual item. So an example of that would be this switch. And if I grab this, we need to go ahead and install the switch right here. So let's do that. And npm run dev will get us back up and running. Let me grab this. We'll drop it in right here. Then I'll simply replace all the body with this switch. All right, so if I come back over here, we will now see this switch, and I can toggle it, but nothing will actually be done with that. However, when I toggle it, it will fire a custom event. And if I want to see what that is, I can actually jump over here and look at the switch itself. There's the HTML, but down here is the actual script. Notice it handles a lot of accessibility things, but it fires this custom event of Starwind switch change. To actually show you an example of how you might want to use this, if I scroll down this way and we look at the code, well, it's not that one right here, event handling. You'll notice that you can actually grab the type, then add event listeners where you're listening for this custom event that's been fired. So as an example, let's copy all of this, come back to the index here and replace this with both the HTML and also the script tag. Now, if I come over here and I fire this, as I move between these two, you'll notice it actually updates this because it can tell if it's on or off. Now, obviously, that's probably not super useful. Hopefully, your users can tell if a switch is on or off, but hopefully it shows you how you'd interact with those custom fired events. Now, two more things I want to briefly show you, and that is how to update one of these components or how to delete them. So if I scroll all the way down here, you'll see that you can update any of them. Just note that if you update it, so if you run this command again when you already have it installed, it will overwrite any local changes. So if you've made changes to one of these, styling wise or other, when you install this, it will re-download the newest version over whatever you've done. If you don't specify any components, you'll just get a list. So let's do that. If I come back over here, we just say update. It will show me a list of anything I happen to have installed. And I can just say update these things right here with the space bar, hit enter, and it will update them. Or in this case, skip them because they're already up to date. Now, the last thing to mention here is that you can remove them as well. Same kind of thing happens here. And if we don't specify, it'll again show us a list. So let's do this, get rid of that, and then we'll just decide which ones we want to delete. All right, so let's get rid of a few of these. And it confirms, yes, I do want to delete them. And if I jump back over here, you'll notice that they're gone. I absolutely love the DX story here. You can tell they've borrowed a lot from shadcn UI. The whole idea of owning the components is so powerful, and especially in the Astro world, I feel like that fits so well with this ecosystem. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.